10 a.m. on Tuesday. It's time to do business. 55 minutes of current and relevant business conversations. That's what we do here every weekday. On Business Morning, I'm Ini John Mekwa, and I will get right into it now, beginning with what's going on in the global oil space. Just let you see the numbers right there. There we see the prices at $90.40 a barrel. That's for Brent, and for WTI, that's a West Texas Intermediate crude, is at $86.03 a barrel, and prices rose, recovering from some of the previous day's losses as investors remain nervous that the Israel-Hamas war could escalate into a wider conflict in the oil exporting region, causing potential supply disruptions. Brent crude futures climbed 57 cents, 0.6% to $90, as we'll see right there on the screen. West Texas Intermediate crude futures also went up 54 cents, 0.6% to $86.03 a barrel. Both benchmarks fell more than 2% on Monday as diplomatic efforts in the Middle East, which is the world's biggest oil supplier region, intensify to contain the conflict between Israel and Hamas, easing investors' worries about supply. Hamas on Monday had said it had freed Israeli women who were among the more than 200 hostages taken during its October 7th rampage in southern Israel, while sources said the U.S. had advised Israel to hold off on ground of assaults in the Gaza Strip. But Israel continued its bombardment of Gaza on Monday after launching airstrikes over southern Lebanon overnight. Now we go to the grain space. Now Chicago wheat slid on Monday from a more than 1 month high in the previous session as rains in key southern hemisphere producers Australia and Argentina boosted supply prospects. Corn and soybeans slid for a second consecutive session, and the most active wheat contracts on the Chicago Board of Trade, CBOT, fell 0.2% to $5.85 for a bushel after climbing to its highest in September 16 at $6.05. Remember, yesterday at this time, wheat was at $6. Recent rains across key Australian wheat growing areas are likely to increase yields, adding several million tons of a crop that had been hit by dry weather and boosting global supply outlook. Heavy rains, drenched drought hit agricultural regions across Argentina over the weekend. The National Meteorological Service said that's raising hopes for better wheat condition in Southern American country. For soybeans, China's import of the oil seed from Brazil rose in September by 23% from a year earlier after a huge crop produced by the South American nation this year continued to reach the world's top buyer. Large speculators increased their net short position in CBOT corn futures in the week to October 17, according to data released by the regulator. The Commodity Futures Trading Commission's weekly commitment of traders report also shows non-commercial traders, a category that includes hedge funds, trimmed their net short position in CBOT wheat and soybeans. We come to Nigeria now. Deputy Assistant Secretary of the State in the Bureau of African Affairs in the United States, Ms. Joy Basu, is challenging stakeholders in the tech ecosystem to explore possibilities inherent within their control to prefer solutions to Nigeria's economic challenges. Ms. Basu, who met with them in Lagos, said she's captivated by the level of energy and raw talents she's observed during her interactions. It's a meeting with tech venture capitalists, startup founders, and ecosystem supporters with the representatives of United States government, led by the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State in the Bureau of African Affairs, Joy Basu. Ms. Basu is visiting Nigeria with the information that the United States does not have all the solutions for Nigeria, but following tested path to success could help.
Look for partnerships with American companies, whether that's directly in jobs, whether that's selling your product to them. And that, again, building on that incredible people-to-people U.S.-Nigeria bond that is there. Yes, I want the government to be a great enabler of that. And you as young Nigerians, nothing will stand in your way. And so form those connections, right? The last thing I'll say is that is what I found was the common thread as an investor to now being a diplomat is it's in these spaces having these conversations. It's about solving problems together in partnership, and that is what comes from being an investor to also being a diplomat. And so do that directly with the products you sell, the goods you're producing, with your fellow entrepreneurs. Let's find ways to innovate, how we interact as well.
Some Nigerian tech individuals who have become success stories share some tips.
The first thing is, if you want to succeed, so if anybody is looking into going to fintech in Nigeria, understand the economics. Understand the economics very well, because if you don't understand it, you are not going to be successful. You probably just spend other people's money and park offshore, right? So the first thing is understand economics, right? I think the second thing is be humble to learn. If you're looking at going into fintech, you need a lot of connection with the banks. You need personal integrity. Years ago, we used to talk about Nigeria doesn't have credit rating system, but they do.
We are always keen on getting feedback from our customers, from our users. We are always very keen on getting feedback. Every quarter, we do focus group discussions where we actually sit down with some previous users, to just interact with them and get their own insight as to what was your experience with our product, what changes would you like to see, and just really get their own sense around what we should be innovating in. Then next is, of course, always keep an eye out for your competitors, right? What are other people doing in this space? What are the stakeholders doing in this space? More recently now, there is the need to delve into AI.
Just beside the US flag.
Tips shared, it's time for those who have been equipped to confidently practice and watch the result. Ini John Mekwa, Channels Television News. Well, still staying on that, after that event, I had a sit-down chat with Ms. Basu to find out more of her thoughts, apart from saying that Nigerians hold their own solution. Sometimes Africa believes the Western world has the solution to all of their problems. But according to her, the U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary for African Affairs, it's not just like that. Africa and Nigerians can actually solve their problems. All they need is a little help coming from there. Enjoy that in this sit-down that I had with Ms. Basu.
The first thing that always strikes me is just the vibrancy and the energy and the hard work that goes in, right? It is such a creative place. It is such a hardworking place. And you talked about the raw talents. I truly believe that. I believe Africa's greatest resource is its people and those people's minds and those people's skills. Nigeria's greatest resource are Nigeria's people. And we want to be a partner in developing that towards a shared prosperity, right? We need to develop solutions faster for these communities at greater scale. We need to develop jobs. So two other observations. One is the vibrancy and the energy and the hustle. Two is the sense that the economy is going through a big shift, but a necessary one. And, obviously those changes have been very recent and they're very much at the forefront of the conversations, whether we're having those with, big American companies investing in Nigeria or Nigerian startups that are trying to wrestle those. And I would have to admit, right, that this is a tough moment in our economy, and I would be remiss if I didn't say that we see those challenges that people are facing. And so it's a story of great energy and hope and excitement, but I don't want to gloss over the real challenges that people are facing when it comes to food prices and transportation prices. And so the U.S. wants to be a partner here to help Nigeria get through that and help Nigerian people get through that, again, towards this vision of shared prosperity for Nigerians, for Africans, and for the world.
So one of the reforms or reforming conversation going on now is how can Africa solve its problem by itself instead of waiting for developed countries, the United States? Because I mean, I ponder myself, who helped the United States to get developed? Who contributed to it, you know? So is there no way Africa can solve her problem, Nigeria solving her problem, you know, with their resources by themselves?
I don't think that the United States has the solutions for Africa by any means, or for Nigeria. I believe we have to find those solutions together. And that will be partially because we are all, you know, in a tough bind right now with this economy, but also because we need to solve the problems in a better way going forward than we did for ourselves. And so I agree with you, and this administration is really committed, you know, to doing a digital transformation with Africa, for example, our new DTA program. And that's because, again, we don't have all the answers. We can't afford to only rely on the answers of the way that we developed. And we have to innovate more quickly than the ways that we did. And so I hope it can be a both-and solution. What I mean by that is both looking at the ways and the products and the services that did work in the United States and that did work in other countries around the world, but also not being bound by those pathways, right? I look to Nigerians for the answers to their own challenges, and I have complete trust that those answers are there, and I hope that we can continue to be a partner in helping those be realized.
And now we talk about Africa's solution to the world. What areas do you see this Africa's solution to the world? How can Africa, with what you have seen with Nigerians, what solutions do you see Nigeria or Africa as a whole presenting to the world to solve their problems?
Yes, it's a great question. You know, the ones that we often talk about, especially here in Nigeria, are, right, like there's the fintech examples of, you know, I can send money more easily often here, you know, when I'm in Africa than I can back home. I can often get internet in certain cities, you know, more quickly than I can elsewhere. But it's not just in these kind of future technologies. It's also in, I hope we see solutions for energy access that come out of Nigeria that can be applied to the rest of the world. You know, you look at the diesel concentration, for example, here in Lagos, and if we can find a way to get, you know, all of those converted into clean sources, wow, you know, that's a solution that the rest of the world can use. If we can find solutions for, you know, the multiple healthcare challenges that are being faced here in Nigeria, that is something that will benefit the world. We see Nigerian doctors all over the world. I want to see Nigerian health solutions all over the world too.
So, I mean, IMF, World Bank, the US, they're applauding President Bola Tinubu with the ongoing reforms. But, you know, there's also the talk of making it wholesome so that it goes round and it has, you know, a more balanced effect. What do you see as the role of the government in dealing with these issues that the country has at this time?
No, it's a great question, and you know, I really want to affirm some of the really difficult policy decisions that this administration has been taking. And as I said, I want to recognize that it feels very challenging for everyday Nigerians. I don't take that lightly at all. And so, you know, I do want to acknowledge those are hard decisions that are hopefully setting Nigeria up for a much better macroeconomic state long term. And in the short term, we need to see two things. We need to see really good implementation and effective government implementation of these good policy ideas. We need to see that done in an accountable and transparent way. I think that is not, I'm not just saying that as another government, I'm saying that to give confidence to the markets, right? There are so many investors. I talk to American companies all the time that want to invest more in Nigeria. And so we hope that we can work with the government and those companies to find those short-term solutions for those challenges. And the second thing I would say is, you know, it's really about that democratic trust and rebuilding the trust between everyday Nigerians and their state. Because as you say, all these talents are here. We just need to you know, strengthen that social contract both in Lagos and around the country, that the state is serving the people and the people are investing in the state. And I know that isn't easy, but what I can tell you is there is very strong U.S. commitment to being a partner in that. President Biden and President Tinubu spoke and met at the G20 in India recently. And since then, we have had a series of, you know, not only high-level visitors coming from the U.S., but very, specific experts. I work on our economic and trade relationship with Africa. I am here focused on how do you increase that two-way trade between Nigeria and the U.S. We had colleagues here who are very senior, who are working on energy, who are working on intellectual property, who are working on diaspora businesses and diverse businesses and those trade missions. Assistant Secretary Pyatt, Undersecretary Lago. And I hope that shows Nigerians that again, we don't have the answers necessarily, but we are here walking beside you, trying to have these technical conversations at a senior level to co-create a way forward.
So it's interesting that, nations have been talking. President Bola Tinubu has been traveling. He went to India, the conversation between Nigeria and the United States. And you even talked about, investors coming in. But there's still concerns about the issue of transparency, in the process. Can the foreign investors trust the system to say, I don't have to see anybody to be able to get my papers or get my business registered? And then there's the FX issue, shortage in the country. Some foreign investors are already looking for how to get their profit out, and that seems difficult because of the FX shortage in Nigeria.
Yeah, and I would say for some companies it's about getting their capital out, but for some companies it's if they know they don't have to worry about getting their capital out, they'll actually keep it in, which is almost an irony about the way that investment works, that when people feel that certain things are scarce, they want to hold on to it. But if they feel that, okay, no matter what, I can trust that if I ever needed it, I could get it, like a bank, then they actually don't make that run. So I think what you ask is such a good and complicated, and it's a nuanced question, so I'll try to be a little bit simple about it, but happy to follow up. One, again, we have to do this together between the U.S. government and the Nigerian government, the U.S. people and the Nigerian people. And so what I would say is to government officials, be your best selves. We are here as government officials, myself included, to serve.
Here to serve, the last words that we had there from Ms. Basu. And of course, issues coming up right there. Applause to the president and his cabinet on the reforms, but obviously more is yet to be done and seen. Top on the list is the FX issue, and we heard that pronouncement at the NESG summit yesterday. The president himself had promised that they will clear the backlog of FX. We're expecting about $10 billion in the nearest future. But of course, the question is, where will they come from? Is it a loan? Do we have extra crude we are going to export? Do we have non-oil export that's ready for exports that's going to bring this extra FX? Well, we will delve into that at the commodities segment after this breather. Commodities time now, and just as I said before the break, let's maybe we can find out where the president is expecting this $10 billion from to clear the backlog of FX shortage in the country. To join for this conversation is Oluwatomi Mayowa, analyst with Financial Derivatives Company, joins us virtually. Hi, Oluwatomi, good morning. Looking bright in your yellow.
Good morning, Ini. Thank you very much for having me.
Great. So we're trying to understand where this $10 billion will come from. You have your ears close to ground right there at FDC. Perhaps you've heard something and would like to share.
Well, let me first of all say that it's actually crunch time for Nigeria. Nigeria is currently facing a myriad of problems, and no solution actually comes easy, right? Actually, the president has said that they're going to source for about $10 billion from anonymous sources. And basically, they're going to issue domestic debt instruments in foreign currency. So it's to clear to clear the backlogs. And I would like to first of all put it in a particular perspective, or talk about the implication of what this is. First of all, one must know that this $10 billion that is going to be sourced from anonymous sources is not tied to projects that would actually boost productivity. Instead, it's going to be used for backlogs. In other words, it's going to be used to settle what has already been consumed. It's going to be used to settle commodities that have already been consumed. And looking at the implication on Nigeria's debt, our external debt, first of all, is going to increase our external debt. And when you also look further into the debt service cost, because we are actually in a high interest rate environment globally, because the US has increased interest rates, and so that is actually going to increase the debt service cost. That's the amount that we paid on the debts. So basically, it's going to worsen the Nigeria's fiscal pressure. And also if you look at our forward obligations in terms of crude payments, most of our crude is actually in swap. And so, looking at the ability for Nigeria to pay because of the declining revenue, it's going to be a little bit difficult, because our crude is already in, at least most of them are already in swap. So, looking at the payments of the debt, it's going to be a little bit complicated. And then moving further into concerns about our external net external reserves, because if we have about 33 billion, which is being reported by the CBN, there will not be any need to say you want to source for about $10 billion, from anonymous source, because it wasn't really mentioned. But all we know is that it's going to be a debt instrument that will be issued to domestic people, issued in foreign currency to people in Nigeria, to Nigerians, basically. So if we have about 33 billion, then why do we want to go ahead to, borrow 10 billion from Nigerians, $10 billion from Nigerians? So it just raises concerns about what our net reserve is. So the federal government, we need to come clean as to what our net reserve is, what our current position is, so that this would actually help or see a clearer picture of what policies that will be taken in the future. So basically, it's a difficult situation. It's complicated. But looking at it on the impact of Naira, first of all, I would say that there's a lag between policy announcements, the impact, and then what the people believe. In terms of the policy announcement, we've seen more announcement than what is being done. Definitely the Naira is, because we are told that it's going to be coming in about 3 weeks or 4 weeks, thereabouts. So Nigerians will want to wait for what the impact will be on the foreign exchange market before they begin to see what's going to before they begin to believe on what the Nigerian president has said. So basically, before we would usually see immediately an announcement come in like that, we'll see reactions from the market. But instead, we saw the other way around. In fact, Naira even depreciated further in the parallel market to about 1,250 from about 1,170 last year per dollar. I mean, last week, Friday. So we've seen that gap between what the announcement and what the people believe. So until we see the impact of the inflow of dollars, then that's when Nigerians will begin to, the speculators begin to, bring out their dollars, basically. So we're going to still see that gap in terms of the impact of the dollar.
Yeah, I mean, and you don't blame Nigerians, because the unification announcement was made months ago, and instead we have seen the gap grow. Now, there's been some suggestions on how this can be solved, which is for the federal government or the CBN to enlarge its net and accommodate some informal sources. I know the BDCs have said one, and thank God the 43 items were one way or the other, so at least dealers in that do not have to go back to the parallel market. But what about the suggestion of the CBN, for instance, accommodating the BDCs and other informal sources of FX into the formal sector? Because it seems there's a whole lot outside the CBN vault than what you have inside.
Yeah, I would say, first of all, I agree with you. But we must understand that the restrictions, the arrest of the BDCs that we had, the restrictions, further, worsen the problem in the forex market, because it complicates the issue, right? So the structure of Nigeria's forex market really needs to be changed. In terms of transparency, there needs to be increased transparency in the forex market. There needs to be price discovery. That would actually bring out. So the forex market is just like any other commodity market, outside there, whereby there's transparency, there's, perfect information. Although we know that perfect market is sort of what is in the mind. It's not, we cannot totally have a perfect market, but the shift of the forex market from an imperfect market to a perfect market, the forex market must shift closer to a perfect market, whereby there is perfect information. Everybody knows what the price is. There's no some form of disclosure, some form of hidden information about the price. So there needs to be perfect information. There needs to be transparency as regards to what the price is, and there needs to be supply. There needs to be supply so that they can be, because in the perfect market, the assumption is that there are many buyers and there are many sellers, right? So including the ones you said about the aboki and all of those things coming into play, we would see the forex market moving closer to a perfect market, and this would actually help the forex market improve even in the future.
This is commodities segment. How does all this affect the commodities prices?
Well, it's really been a serious one, because we've seen a transmission effect, which is almost immediate to domestic prices. For example, we saw a spike in flour, a bag of flour, to about 45,000. It used to be 30,000 some months ago. Now it's about 45,000 naira. You're looking at beans, the price of beans has also increased. So basically, we're looking at because the food basket has some import content, so which we know that wheat is used to make flour. So basically, when this wheat is being imported, we must know that the price of wheat globally has actually declined. But because of the exchange rate, the depreciation, that's actually canceling out, or should I say, reducing the effect of the reduction in global price on domestic prices. So we're seeing exchange rate depreciation, the transmission effect on food prices. And that's also making food prices expensive. And we're also seeing demand increase for substitutes. And because the demand for substitute increases, it also pushes up the prices of those substitutes. So basically, we are seeing prices increase throughout, the food basket. And also, don't forget that the food is being transported from the farm then to the market, and the cost of that transport has actually increased. Looking at diesel price, rose to about 1,030 naira before, declining marginally to about 950. So 990. So basically, it's the cost of transportation has actually increased. So transporting those goods from the farm gate to the market prices, is also filtering into the price of those commodities in the market. So basically, that's what we're seeing in the market.
All right, thank you so much. And not a good picture, but it's also important to say that it's not just
I would like to also add that because we're seeing some action from the government in terms of palliative, and the 5 billion has been added, and they're promising a minimum wage review, which might most likely happen next year. That might provide some form of comfort to Nigerians, because once we see an increase in the money that's being earned, that would actually help some low income earners to be able to purchase those commodities. So I believe that is some form of comfort in the short term.
All right, but I mean, we've also seen the money circulation also increase, and that's threat to further inflation. So I mean, it's a difficult thing to find a balance. But I mean, we'll just deal with it one at a time. But thank you so much for your time and sharing the perspective of FDC. Oluwatomi Mayowa, analyst with Financial Derivatives Company.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, now, well, the picture is not very glossy anywhere, not in the UK, not in the US, even though the US is controlling the world, the dollar gains, and then, then debt servicing increases, and emerging economies running to meet up with their debt, or else they face that IMF surcharge that could be hammered on them. Well, we'll continue talking about it, and hopefully we will get it right. Get it done right in a short time. There's also the issue of mergers and acquisitions, M&A. That activity across sub-Saharan Africa has made an impressive comeback in 2022. The region had about 297 M&As announced during the year on the review, a 21% increase on the prior year, although total values for deals were sharply lower, so higher number but lower value, 19.2 billion naira. Well, we know that from this finding by KPMG, South Africa is leading on the continent. Well, let's find out what they saw to place South Africa ahead of Nigeria and Egypt. And joining us for that is Ijoma Emeze Ezigbo, partner and head transaction services with KPMG West Africa. Ijoma, good morning. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Good morning, Indy. Thank you for having me.
So tell us what you looked out for and how come South Africa is stopping. What did Nigeria do wrong?
So thank you for that question, Indy. I wouldn't say what Nigeria did wrong, to be honest. But when you look at the macroeconomic headwinds, which is not specific to Africa, which is not specific to Nigeria, it's something that has been regional. Nigeria hasn't fared the best when you compare to South Africa. But the dynamics are not so different from South Africa. Nigeria is very close to the South African market. The dynamics are also similar. So the same currency issues, I heard your discussion with Mayowa, the same currency issues, the same FX issues that we're facing in Nigeria is similar to what is going on in South Africa. The economies are also very much similar. So when you look at the sectors of investments, where investments are going in, similar to South Africa, Nigeria has significant investment going into the energy and mining and natural resources, driven by investment in oil and gas and investments in mining sector. So I wouldn't say that Nigeria has done worse than South Africa. I just think that Nigeria has taken a much higher macroeconomic headwinds when it comes to especially the currency fluctuations with the naira devaluation, etc. So I'm hoping that one of the key policy measures that the current president is putting in place would help us get some sort of stability in that FX market.
And you think this is also why South Africa is going to overtake, because IMF has said by next year, South Africa will overtake Nigeria when it comes to the size of the economy. Does this feed into it?
Sure, absolutely. So you can see that there's a bit of correlation. There's a high level of correlation, first with macroeconomic activities, with the growth in any economy, and of course, also the level of investment going into any economy with respect to the growth in the economy. So when you have these significant investments going into a particular economy, you're expected to see much more higher growth in that economy than another economy where investment is shrinking. If you see the results of the report, Nigeria has taken a lot of hits with respect to the foreign direct investments coming into the economy. We've seen significant decline. We saw the significant decline post-2021 in this last 2022, the lowest been during the COVID era. So we expect that if South Africa is going to top the investment chart, with Nigeria's second to South Africa, is more likely to also translate in high economic growth. But overall, Nigeria isn't doing badly. I think for us, we need to look inwards and see how we can fix our macro issues, most especially the currency issues, and hope to attract much more foreign investments into the economy to drive the productive sectors of the economy. If you look at where the investments are going in, the energy and natural resources, like I mentioned, we have a lot of investments going into financial services, TMT and consumer sectors. Those are the productive sectors of the economy, which we need to sort of fix the macro issues that we have, fix our ease of doing business, and create an enabling environment for private enterprises to thrive because that's where the bulk of the investments coming into this economy with respect to M&As are going. They're going into the private companies. So we need to find ways to create an enabling environment for these private companies to thrive and attract the multi-led capital to enable them scale and contribute significantly to the growth of the Nigerian economy.
So I guess if the president can meet up with that promised $10 billion to clear the backlog, that will also be an attraction.
Sure, that would be a major attraction. However, one of the things that we say, and one of the things that the report has also found out, is that investors in sub-Saharan Africa, especially Nigeria, must have a long-term view. So you shouldn't have a short-term mindset or a short-term view to investments. Because obviously, I mean, this is not the first time that we're finding ourselves in this sort of cyclical macroeconomic issues and cyclical currency fluctuations. This has been the worst, at least for most of us, in our life history. However, we believe that in the long term, these short-term impacts would correct. And one of the things then we say to investors, have a long-term view. Consider the short-term movements in macroeconomic instability, volatility of the Naira in your investment. But in the long term, please hold a long-term view so that you can ensure that the investment has a higher risk-adjusted returns over the long term rather than the short term.
And I hear you talk a whole lot about enabling environments, even on our sister program, Sunrise, this morning. We're talking about the ease of doing business in Nigeria. I mean, it's a program, payback and all of that. They've been on for a bit. And then recently, during the travels of President Bola Tinubu, at least we had his essay media, Mr. Jerry Ngilali, on the program, promised that the president will personally ensure that, issues around bureaucracy, issues around lack of transparency, especially for foreign companies, even for the local investors. I mean, I guess if these issues are being dealt with and people can, for a certain, you talked about investors looking at investments in the country from a short-term lens, and you don't blame them because there are complaints of policy somersaults, uncertainty in the process. These are some of the things that I believe has placed Nigeria where it is, and that's your report.
So one of the things that we see, one of the areas that the investors pointed out as a huge impediment to doing deals in Nigeria is around transparency. So information asymmetry, lack of transparency around financial information and other information just that will enable investors carry out the deal evaluation in form of different types of due diligence, whether it's financial or tax or commercial, transparency into the level of compliance of those businesses and really into the state of those businesses. That's one of the huge impediments. We have 40% of the survey participants say that they've attempted a deal in the last 4 years in Nigeria that didn't succeed. And this was one of the major reasons that they put forward as the reason why the deal didn't go through. So for us, one of the things that we try to do also as a KPM, as a professional services from an advisor in this local market, is to try to improve the level of governance in private companies. So not just a transparency at the level of government, but also transparency at the level of the institutions themselves, helping companies institutionalize the businesses, improve the level of governance in the boardrooms, improve the level of financial reporting, the quality of the audit process, etc., to ensure that there is transparency in the information that is available for investors to evaluate the transactions and support the valuations that are put in on the businesses. And we believe that this will continue to drive significant investment if that information asymmetry is bridged and there's increased level of transparency amongst private companies.
All right, thank you so much, Ijoma Emezie Ezigbo, partner and head transaction services, KPMG, West Africa. We do hope that reports such as this will not just be sitting, on the desk and computers. It will actually be read and practiced and make a difference. But thank you for sharing your reports with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Let's head to the markets now. Yesterday, the NGX closed negative again, but it was marginal, giving a little bit of hope. And we can also tell you that the market breadth yesterday was positive, even though it was closed. I think about 23 stocks gained and 21 were down. So maybe today we will have a positive close. I can't say for sure. I'm not a market prophet. I tried it. It didn't work for me. So I'll just be a reporter then. But we see the all-share index was down 0.06%. Equity lost 21.14 billion. billion naira, and also the oil share is at 51,595.66. That's a little bit of gain right there. Looking at the activity, we see banking has regained, and I saw, some analysts saying that perhaps the Fugas might be a good place to go into at this time. I'm just saying, I don't know that. Consumer goods down 0.03%, industrial goods and change, insurance also getting a lot of attention at this time. Oil and gas back to status quo, which is always looking on change at the close of trade. And there you see the activity chart, more of green. That's why perhaps more volume, but volume could either be profit-taking or bargain hunting, so it doesn't really tell you. The all share is what tells you, but the value was down yesterday. Some money got out of, you saw that amount there, 4.38 billion there. I don't know if you have the sectors to see that. Of course, it's okay. We saw the banking and we saw the oil and gas on change and all of that. Market breadth was positive. 23 gained at 21. Very close, but it's positive and may actually tell us that today could be positive. But let's speak with analysts from Parthian Securities Limited. Mercy Okon joins us now from Lagos. Hi, Mercy. Good morning. So we saw a marginal loss, a marginal drop in the market yesterday, but a positive market breadth. Can we hold our breath that today the market will close positive?
Thank you for having me. So yeah, this actually depends on whether or not we see some or get some level of positive catalyst, right, to spur up activities in the market. And it's safe to say that some of these positive catalysts or positive triggers that we're talking about is the release of some more Q3 earnings results, as this will help spur some level of buy momentum in the markets.
Yeah, so we see insurance getting attention, while on the flip side, oil and gas losing attention. What's really happening?
So if you're looking at sectoral performance, you would see that, you'd observe that for a while now, about a few weeks, they've all been down except for the banking sector. And this is because of the role or the impact of the macroeconomic state, right, on these sectors. So it's easier for the banking sector to be able to swim across the murky waters, because it's easier for them to move, transfer the effect of whatever pressure that they are on with the public at the end of the day in terms of charges and all of that. But it's not the same for the rest of the sector. So they take a bulk of the hit. Consumers' wallet is quietly thinning out. Finance costs are surging and all of that. Hence why investors are really, really anticipating what the outcome of the Q2 result would be, as this would help provide some level of clarity.
All right, Mercy, thank you so much for helping us understand the backstory of the numbers, and do have a great day ahead.
Yeah, you're welcome. Take care.
Let's head to London now. Juliana is standing by, and Juliana was really busy yesterday. Victory, I guess, to Nigeria. P&ID case was quashed in favor of Nigeria. What do I know? Juliana has the details. Hi, Juliana. Good morning.
Good morning, Innie.
So give us a little bit of backstory. You've been following this story. Yesterday, you had your hands full. I guess the case has come to an end now. Give us a little bit of flesh to this P&ID case.
Well, we hope it's come to an end, but P&ID, the firm at the heart of this case, is still having its options open to appeal. That's according to its lawyer, Nick Marsh, who responded to the ruling by Judge Nick Knowles yesterday. Now, let's go back, as you said, because at the heart of this case is a failed deal between the Nigerian government and P&ID, also known as Process and Industrial Development. Now, in 2010, they apparently agreed to build a refining industrial site for Nigeria so that it could process gas. And as explained throughout the years, this contract seemed to have changed hands. It started with the late President Yar'Adua. It was then passed through to President Goodluck Jonathan, who did agree an out-of-court settlement. The payment of that settlement was then passed on to a third administration under President Muhammadu Buhari. In fact, I do actually remember covering the news about 5 years ago for Channels Television when a large delegation from Nigeria came to London to fight this case, which was brought in 2017 to the Property and Business Court of England and Wales. It was during that court hearing that the judge at the time awarded P&ID $6.6 billion US. Now, a lot of people were asking how it went from $6.6 billion to $11.5 billion. Well, that's because of interest rates and just because it had ballooned over the years due to inflation. But yesterday, of course, the Nigerian government breathed a huge sigh of relief when the judge sitting at the court yesterday, in his words, said the case highlights what some individuals do for money, bribery of epic and industrial scale. Now, the case is very long, very complicated, complex. It spans more than 3 administrations. It involves the Ministry of Petroleum, the Ministry of Justice, all of whom have reached out and given a statement basically thanking the judge for agreeing with them that this was bribery and fraud. But I do believe at the time EFCC were also involved in this case, looking at P&ID, which is a firm not based in the UK. It's based, or it's registered in the British Virgin Islands, and it's actually run by 2 Irish businessmen, so not really connected with the United Kingdom. However, lots of people have been bringing out some receipts, as they call them, from the then British Home Secretary Priti Patel, who appeared to be backing P&ID. So the entire case, Inni, has raised so many questions, not only about processing in Nigeria, but also the fact that we need to do our due diligence. It's not just because of skin tone and race and creed and grammar when it comes to foreign direct investors coming into the country, posing as foreign direct investors, when really they are sham firms. Now, of course, we know that Nigeria is battling double-digit inflation, high unemployment, high interest rates. It's a story that is familiar to most countries across the world. But certainly, if this had been an adverse response, then of course the country would be in serious trouble. At the time, there were suggestions that perhaps Nigeria's overseas assets would be seized to pay the arbitration award. That isn't the case. Thankfully, the judge did see sense and said, you know, the company was fraudulent and the entire case was littered with bribes, including some bribes that the EFC uncovered were given by those working for P&ID to those who were supposedly affiliated with the government. So the case does seem to be dead as of now, but as I said, according to P&ID's lawyers, Nick Marsh, P&ID is considering the steps available to them in light of the judgment.
Wow, a lot. And this is just you summarizing it. But honestly, for Nigeria's sake, we do hope this is the end. And as you noted, we're talking of foreign direct investments into the country, but the process, you know, seems not so certain. But Juliana, thank you so much. We'll talk to you at 1:30. Of course, we do have that voluntary rate and all of that, but Ladi will handle that on Business Incorporated.
Thank you.
And talking of Ladi, he walks in here, and as usual, then that changes from London to cryptocurrency. There, let's have it. Oh, okay. Well, when you talk about being disappointed, but I'm sure that will change in a couple of seconds as Ladi walks in now, yeah. And I can tell you, I don't think I can keep quiet about this.
Right.
Bitcoin has done it.
Done it. Wow. I am as shocked. I don't know how shocked you are.
I had my mouth
so
open
shocked.
for minutes when I saw it. I was like, I can't believe it. From 20 to over 35.
Like,
yeah.
From nowhere. This came from nowhere. And it's so green. And my question now is, How sustainable is this? What's driving this
Ladi,
greed in the market right now?
I think this is a good time to make some profit and then stay on the corner.
Yeah.
Because something is going to happen after this.
Exactly, but we don't know what.
We don't know what.
We'll just keep tracking.
Exactly.
That's it. That's how it's looking right now. It's super green right here in the crypto market. Bitcoin there did touch above $35,000. Big jump. Over 10% this morning. Ethereum also breaking that 1,600 level, getting up to $1,800, also about 10% this morning. We see huge pockets of green all around the board, just a few reds there. So profit taking with Link. But if we look at the top cryptocurrencies we track now, take a look at that list. You see it's all green there with Bitcoin holding above that 33,000 level. If we flip over now to the top cryptocurrencies that we track, you see that Bitcoin is holding up there, 10.77%, 8 a.m. this morning. BNB, $227, also breaking that $213 resistance. It's been at for a while now, 2.76% up. Cardano not missing out in the action, 28 cents, up 5.25%. But XRP, some might say it's still quite disappointing because it's still around that 50-cent level, but it's 54 cents, above 50 cents. So I guess some investors would take that, 3.91%. Let's bring in Olumide Adesina, our financial market analyst. Hello, Olumide, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Ladi. Thanks for having me.
Right. So, Olumide, definitely when a rally like this, comes upon you, there is that fear of missing out, FOMO, and that spirit is really strong, when it comes to a rally like this and with investors. Tell me what's going on in this market, Olumide.
It's a very green day. Just like you rightly rated, Bitcoin year to date is over 100%. October is up by more than 20%. Yesterday, so today gained about 12%. It tells you pretty much that Bitcoin is rallying at its highest level since May 2022. And pretty much is the anticipation by investors, particularly institutional investors, that a sports ETF will come in play. We've earlier retreated that will bring in about $155 billion into the world's most valuable crypto asset. So some investors that already positioned earlier. But the key thing to notice was the way it broke from the 30,000 resistance and immediately turned to support. One had anticipated that, at some point, the strong dollar, the US Fed meeting on November 1 will bring down the asset. But right now, Ladi is defying gravity. And, it touched 35 before cooling up at around 34,000 as we speak. Right. But I think the stars in the show is the meme coins. You see Pepe up by more than a third of its value. You see Rocket Pool and ApeCoin. So it's an interesting sign in the crypto market right now, Ladi.
Right, and definitely we know Bitcoin is having fun right now, talking about Bitcoin investors with this rally, but definitely we cannot shy away from the issue with the Naira, right now hitting new lows. Talk to me about that P2P market in the crypto industry. Can that play, have any positive, towards the Naira at this point? Can it bring any advantage and loosening the pressure on the Naira right now?
Yeah, I think it's quite tricky now because if you look at the fact that the narrative playing out right now that a tier 1 bank had some hack issues where a lot of players in the P2P market had their accounts frozen, that damping the Naira inflow into that market. But looking at the rates as it is at trading at close to what we see at the black market, over 1,200 to the dollar, I think pretty much Nigeria's attractiveness to the P2P market cannot be understated. This is a market that just last year to this year, the Nigerian traders moved over 56.5 trillion naira. So definitely that's a role. But I think what the CBN is trying to work on, and the banks also are trying to isolate the prominence of P2P. And that's why we're seeing banks still being more aggressive on restricting that. So I don't see any relationship between the P2P market and Nigerian banks in the nearest future.
All right, definitely be looking out for that. We need to reduce the pressure on the Naira right now. Thank you so much, Olumide, additional financial market analyst. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so there we have it. Yeah, Bitcoin shining right now, but
and Ladi looking for a way to
I want to
reduce the
strengthen
pressure.
the naira. I want to strengthen the naira. I need the naira to appreciate bigger than this.
All right. Okay.
Right.
We'll get there. We'll work on it.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Ladi. See you at 1:30.
Thank you.
All right, so that's where we draw the curtains on Business Morning for today. A second one for the week is 3 more to go. You don't want to miss it. 10 a.m. tomorrow. But Ladi will be back 1:30 to give you update from the world of business. And remember, you can watch Business Morning at any time you want. YouTube.com/channels web and check for Business Morning, and you can get all the information at your own pace. I'm Ini John Mekwa. I'll see you during the 10 p.m. news for the Stock Market Report. Make some money.